Okay, so we are here on Real Talk with the Bluntness with Reverend Kelly. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I love the bluntness a lot. And we in Canada don't have anything like the bluntness here. So I think you should just pick everything up and come to Canada and be with us here.
Okay, that sounds wonderful for multiple reasons. And you guys are fully legal. And as I just mentioned before we hopped on, you are our first Canadian guest. So excited to have you and your perspective. And I loved, is it Orono where you're based? Is that how you say it? Yeah, I was researching a little bit about where you live, and I'm so excited to hear about what the cannabis industry is like for you and what you've built. It seems so unique, and it's something we couldn't have here with our current legal state of cannabis. So can you start by telling us a little bit about you and how you got involved in the cannabis industry?
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm Reverend Kelly, but I've only been a minister since June. So before that, Kelly's Green Lounge has been sort of working for the last 2 years. We came a year before legalization, and we're coming up on 2 years legalization this October. So it's kind of amazing what's been happening here in Canada. I came from a teaching background, as well as I worked in the music industry as an agent and promoter for DJs, world famous house music DJs. And I was a radio announcer. And then I left that because I had a child, and you can't take a child into nightclubs on your back. I tried. So I left that to do something that would be sort of better for him. And I became a teacher and an early childhood educator. So I sort of really complete ends of the spectrum of what I did in my career. And then I left that to open up a cannabis business just before legalization, because I was finding that I had a lot of moms and a lot of families and a lot of humans that were coming to me saying, what are we doing? We heard about cannabis. We heard it's medicine. We heard it's therapeutic. And I was kind of that person that was always bringing the pot brownies instead of the wine to parties, or the, infused popcorn. So people just kind of knew me as this hippie lady. And so they assumed I had weed, which I always did. And so when it was coming legalization and more people were talking about it and wanting to know about it, I had to give them answers. So I ended up going back to school, taking certifications, university courses, as much as I possibly could to learn about cannabis and the endocannabinoid system so that I could help people. And then it got really, really busy and people wanted to know more. So I opened up social media pages and I got a really nice big following. And then that grew, and I was doing pop-ups places and people were coming, and I thought I really need a store, like, or a lounge or something. So I found this beautiful, beautiful space in my hometown where I own a home here. And there's 1,200 people in our entire rural village. But we service like a big community, but there was nothing in our region. There was nothing cannabis anywhere to be able to help people or teach people or for people to come and do anything with. So that's when we decided to open up the lounge. Well, I decided to open up the lounge. And then what happened, Aubrey, was people were coming here than I could have ever imagined in such a community sense. A lot of lost lambs, a lot of lost sheep, I like to say, because they never had a place to come to. And it just formed its way into a church, which is so funny for me to say, because I went from a place where I was dancing on speakers in nightclubs until dawn because I was with my DJs, to now fast forward all these years to a place where I'm a minister and I teach cannabis as my religion, as my spirituality. And we do sermons but that's just part of it, because we have all kinds of recreational stuff. We do medical clinics. We teach a course. We just have a lot going on with Kelly's Green Lounge.
That is incredible just to hear your background. Something I love about cannabis, having done community journalism in New Hampshire. I mentioned I was from New Hampshire to you. So I appreciate that rural and small town like community. And it's just so fascinating to hear how everyone found their way to cannabis in a different way. That's such a cool journey. So can you fill in our American listeners on what is cannabis like in Orono? You gave us a little bit of a taste, but I'm sure that you encounter American cannabis just by nature of us being next door neighbors. How is Canadian cannabis and legalization across the entire country why does that make it different? What's the culture like up there?
Yeah, it's incredible, Aubrey. I'll tell you, on Monday mornings I do the cannabis news called the Reefer Reports on Pace Radio. So
Okay.
I'm very familiar with what's happening in the United States with the election coming up and the different states, and they're decriminalizing and the state by state legalization down there. So, but it is quite different because from province to province here, we're completely legal. Now, each province has their different sets of rules. For example, in Quebec, you have to be 21 to consume. But for us in Ontario, you are 19. So what happened was federally, we're all legal. But what they did was they gave it to the provinces to decide how that would look, how you could grow, how much cannabis you could possess. And again, what the legal age is and stuff. So it looks a little bit different from province to province, but for the most part, we're completely legal. And it's so neat. It's so neat because Kelly's Green Lounge isn't just in Orono. We're more virtual than anything else. So a lot of our members are on the West Coast. We have a lot of members in Alberta. We have a lot of members in British Columbia. And we do have a lot of members. I write for an Australian publication, an Australian magazine publication. So we have
Cool.
people in Australia as well, in Iceland and England that are members. But for Canada overall, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to walk down the street smoking a joint and not be stopped or worried about it, to be able to go to a concert and to be in the section where everybody's smoking their cigarettes and you're smoking a doobie. And there's no worry about it. I used to hide doobies in my bra because you're sneaking into the concert and they're not going to feel your boob. Well, most of them aren't. Some of them do. But for the most part, we had to hide, right? Now we don't have to hide anything. Yeah. And it's wonderful to be able to say that.
It seems like a much more healthy relationship than it is. So interesting. I'd be curious what it was like, in your opinion, prior to legalization, because it's so fascinating, even just reporting for the Bluntness and how different states have such different opinions on it. Or I lived in California and it's legal in California, very legal, destigmatized, yet Massachusetts, where I had moved from before LA, is legal, but it feels like you're going into like almost like a prison when you go into a dispensary. It's a very different energy. So does it feel like a loosening up, or did this just seem like what was naturally happening in the provinces before legalization?
Somewhat. So before October 17th, 2018, we had a lot of dispensaries that were popping up, illegal ones. And they were incredible to be able to go into because these products were not available anywhere. And people were not understanding strain names. There was not even talk of terpenes. We didn't even talk about back then. But there's good and bad that's come with legalization. First of all, our country didn't do it right from the hop. They didn't, because they had what was called a lottery system where you could apply to get a dispensary, and it just didn't work out. They've thrown that out the window. And there are a lot of sort of rules that we have to get around. For example, I'm in a lounge, but you can't smoke in here because we have bylaws when it comes to smoking. So you cannot smoke inside. I'm okay with that overall because a lot of the people that come here, we're a cannabis friendly establishment. So we like to say, you can come and you can consume cannabis in a different way. You don't need to smoke it. But a lot of the people that come here don't smoke or don't consume because they're dates, or they're coming with somebody that loves cannabis, but maybe they don't. So we wouldn't want it to be filled with smoke anyway. But there are lounges that friends of mine own that would love to be able to partake inside. What I'm hoping will happen, when you go into a restaurant here in Canada, you get a liquor license, the people that own the restaurant, and you can buy a glass of wine or a spritzer or whatever it is. I would like to be able to offer infused beverages on that kind of way. I don't need to sell the flower. I don't need to sell the edibles, but I'd really like to sell infused kombucha or teas or coffees or whatever. And I think that that's how we will be now it's a little sidetracked with what happened with the apocalypse. So we had a lot of things that were going to happen this year that just didn't. But I think that once all that goes away and all the zombies are killed, then we'll be able to, then we'll be able to have our stuff happening again, and we'll be able to have those sort of licenses and the private event licenses. I think that's sort of that missing, that disconnect. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say that there's a lot of people that are in my industry that are long-time grassroots advocates. They don't like legalization. The people that own my radio station, not my radio station, but the station that I had the show on, they're those kinds of people. Now, they're patients, though. So when we went recreationally legal, we didn't think about medical as much as we should have. Medical was legal a long time before recreational happened. And so a lot of these guys are finding that, for example, our recreation has a limit of 10 milligrams per edible that you can buy at a time. So for the recreational, so for the real big chronics out there, they're going 10 milligrams. That's nothing. Like, I eat that for breakfast, like, with like a little mint or something like that. And for medical patients as well that need that extreme high milligrams in the edible that they're taking. But for the people that are new to cannabis, which are a lot of the people that I teach, people that have never tried it before, that 10 milligrams can be a lot. And we want you to start slow and grow. We want you to build yourself up and build your tolerance up. So there's little things within legalization that people complain about. There's a lot overall that's good. You can't please everybody. And I'm just sort of this person in the middle that I don't draw lines in the sand between legal or legacy or medical or anything. I just want to get you the information and help you be able to get to cannabis the best way.
Wow. Are you a Libra? You sound like you get
I'm a cusp baby. I'm right on Scorpio Sagittarius cusp.
Oh, lovely. Okay, I'm a Scorpio. I always get into astrology on these. It's funny. You got such
I love that
spirits in cannabis. Now, can you tell us, you've kind of talked about this a little bit, but what Kelly's offered maybe before the pandemic, what your plans maybe were that you can share for this year and where you hope to go. And then I would also love to hear how you've kind of managed this pandemic. You seem like a woman who's able to pivot and do a lot of different things. So curious about what you offer, where you hope to go, and what you've learned as a result of, as you said, the apocalypse and the zombies.
Yeah. You know what? I'll share with you a little bit about me. I'm somebody that suffers from complex PTSD. So that means that there's been so many traumas that my brain does this thing where it locks memories out. So I don't remember much of my life. And because of that, I'm always living in fight or flight. So it sort of fuels me. I'm able to sort of go to do what I need to, because I live with fight or flight all day. Now, if I didn't have cannabis to consume at nighttime, I wouldn't sleep and my body would be like this all the time. But when I get to the evening time, when I don't have to go, I let it go like this. Now, what happened when we hit the apocalypse was that I had to pivot from being in life to virtual, and I just did it. And if you can recall, for the 420, we had a big celebration, and you guys actually featured my 420 virtual event. And that was the biggest one that we ever did virtually. And since then, we've changed to have what's called KGL TV. So now we do a lot of interviews, we do a lot of shows, we have late night talk shows, we have comedy shows, and they're all within our social media to teach people about cannabis or to cannabis awareness. So that's how we sort of pivoted it. And when we did that, it went huge. Like, wow, lots of people came and we had lots of following. Lots of people signed up to be members. I'll share with you that when I'm talking about living with PTSD or complex PTSD, I detox from everything. I don't have TV. I don't read the news. I don't listen to the radio. I just keep myself in a bubble because it sort of protects me, because I have a lot of triggers. So when it comes to this pandemic that's been happening around, I've been this person going, well, it's okay. You're all okay. Everybody's all right. Because I don't know any different, because I just don't let myself learn that a little bit. My son is 12 and he just started grade 7 and he has to wear masks to school. Now, I'm not somebody that can wear a mask. So I had to actually retrain myself and learn a little bit about this pandemic, because he's in school. Because I was just like, no, everything's fine. we're mask optional in here because we're members only, and I don't let it affect me because I feel like if you bring that negative energy to you, and I'm a Reiki healer as well, so I'm somebody that really, really manipulates energy and works with energy. So if I'm going to bring that negative energy of the pandemic to me, then it's going to start affecting me. So I just push it away and pretend it doesn't happen, Aubrey. There's no pandemic out there. We're fine. We've cannabis.
It's interesting. I'm actually certified in intuitive healing. So it's really interesting to hear how you speak about it. Like what we take in is it's how we feed ourselves food that does something to our body. The energy we take in does something as well too. So it's so interesting to hear you talk about that. Now the Cannabis Church, and you are now ordained. That's correct verb, correct? Congratulations. Can you tell us a little bit about the Cannabis Church, what that entails, what it means to you? I saw that. That's so interesting because you hear people talk about cannabis, and I know in my intuitive healing that some of the people would talk about how it had helped them. Curious just your relationship with it, how that came to be, and what a Cannabis Church means to you for those listeners who might not know.
Yeah, for sure. So our church is called the Cannabis Church of KGL. And it started because we are that community that offers guidance and love and support by way of cannabis. So when I consume cannabis, I'm consuming it in a spiritual way because I'm able to get past those barriers that I put up for myself to keep myself safe. So when I consume my cannabis, I'm able to meditate deeper. I'm able to compartmentalize the things that I need to so that I can get stuff done. And so I started learning a little bit more about that because I was like, wow, this is really neat. I've also got a really big interest in Bob Marley and the Rastafarian belief. And it is their belief that cannabis is our natural state. So it is their belief that anything outside of that is a facade. So when we smoke or consume cannabis, that's our natural state. We taste things better, we make love better, we hear music better. Everything is just us, and we can see it, we can feel it without putting up those walls. That is my belief as well. And that's a lot of foundation to do with my church, is the Rastafarian belief there, that cannabis is really just how we should be feeling and thinking. And I believe that if we allow it to, cannabis will heal our world, not just with the consumption of it and the healing of ourselves, but through hemp and growing and saving us and fixing all of the problems. We're calmer when we smoke or consume. We're just better overall. I'm a better mom. I'm a better friend. I'm a better leader. And that all has to do with the spiritual properties of the church. So I teach it. I learn all the time about it. I have a team of educators around that are teaching me all the time, and that we work about the different languages. Like, for example, we're not using strains anymore. We're saying terpene profiles. We're not using the word marijuana. We're using cannabis. There's just so many things that we're learning and doing to do with the church and to do with KGL overall. But we really just want to heal and teach. I read tarot cards. I have Reiki sessions that I do. I do a show called Seshing in Church, where I meet individuals that are spiritual. They may be growers. I had a Rastafarian gentleman this past Sunday. And that we smoke our doobies, and we talk about cannabis and what it means to them. And people are tuning in so that they can, I guess, learn a little bit more about the spiritual parts of it, because our plant has so much to do with spirituality. It really, really does. And so my message is just of that. I can do cannabis weddings. So legal cannabis weddings where the two participants will come and I can transfer their energy by Reiki. So I can put my hands on one another and I can transfer their energy, but also they're consuming cannabis at the same time. So they're really just being who they are, and their love chakras are coming together by way of cannabis, and they're getting married that way. Isn't that neat?
Wow, that's incredible. I am so in awe at how you have created this community in this little town of 1,200. Do you feel accepted by the community? Can you talk a little bit about the experience? I listened to something you said earlier where you said you'll have people come in where one partner is a consumer and one is not.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting because that can be a friction or a tension for people. And from what I'm hearing, you have an ability to open people's eyes or maybe open their hearts to something they haven't thought of before. Can you talk a little bit about that, or the reward and what it feels like to kind of help guide someone through their journey with the plant?
It's one of my most favorite things that I do, Aubrey. We've got a lot of media attention out this way, like local news and newspapers. So a lot of people have found me by that way. And one of my favorite members ever that came here, his name is John. He would be okay with me sharing this about him. He came with a bud in a jar, and he's 75. And he said he saw me on the news, and he said, I don't know what to do. Somebody gave me this. I have all of these medical conditions and I can't sleep. Can you help me? And this little man comes back to me every Friday for tea, and he's growing his plants, first time ever growing his own medicine. And he sleeps 6 hours a night because we were able to help him understand cannabis. And there's lots of Johns that come through the door. I deal with a lot of people that are affected by addictions. We have free medical and addiction clinics where people can come and learn how to get off of their opiates and use cannabis instead of. We have medical professionals that come and do that. But people come here by themselves and they make friends. And maybe they haven't had a community to come to. And so they come to our community. We have recreational Fridays where we do comedy and cannabis and comedy. And we have these incredible comedians that come out. We do things like trivia nights and bingo and live music. And so it's just really a place for people that they can come to, and they don't have to consume cannabis. But if they are curious about it, then we can help them find maybe the best way that they would get into the cannabis. But if they don't want to, they can just come with their partners or whoever they wanted to come with and just participate here. We have a lot of, I'm thinking of wives specifically, because we have a lot of gentlemen that bring their wives, and the wives don't consume. They're the drivers, but they still have fun when they're here participating in the activities that we have.
Okay. And you have a virtual component. I believe you had mentioned before too, right?
Yep, we have KGL TV, which is, it streams on all of our different social media, and we do interviews. We just did a roundtable on hemp. We had a couple of Americans on that one, actually, because you guys have a different farm bill down there. So your hemp farm bill is a lot different than what it looks like for us over here. CBD is still regulated. It's not as open as it is down in the United States of America. So when we did our round table on KGL TV, we had Americans come on and talk about what it's like there. We just use that channel in whatever way possible that we can get the message out of cannabis. Just any way. There's maybe something that our Facebook page is it's got 2.5 thousand people on it. Like, there's very highly interactive and lots of followers. And when there's messages that come on, like, for example, they're complaining a lot about how there have been a lot of male plants this year. And that led to, because they're seeding out the girls. So that came to, well, why is that happening? So we ended up having to have that hemp roundtable discussion to talk about the difference between the types of plants and male plants. And it just happens that way. Whatever subject ends up coming up, we just put on our shows so that we can talk about it and people learn. Yeah.
So it's education too.
Yeah. Oh, we have a course that we teach. I haven't even told you about. It's called the Homeostasis Hippie. And you can come here just like a first aid CPR course and come in the morning. And by the afternoon, you're certified in cannabis, and you learn everything from growing to methods of consumption. But you also learn about energy healing and how to be a better human. We do manners. We because everybody forgets their manners. Don't put your elbows on the table. And we do a lot, right? Hold the door for people when you're going through. But we just are, as part of our course, we add those little reminders in there. So you're certified as a homeostasis hippie, and that's the course that we offer. So a lot of what we do is educational, just to teach about it, because cannabis is so new. We haven't even been legal for 2 years. Had we not ever been illegal or prohibited, could you imagine what kind of where we would be, Aubrey, if it had never been illegal? How many lives it would have saved? How much research would have been done by now? So we're catching up. We're catching up, and we need to do it so that we can save these lives and change the world and make the world a better place.
No, and that's the interesting thing about legalization, that news stories come out. There's a lot of, it could affect this. It could affect your heart. We don't know, but it needs to be legalized so that we can get those studies officially happening. And it is interesting about the CBD, but then CBG and then the other cannabinoids, we kind of up in the air. I'm not quite sure. I helped on a white paper about CBG last year, and it's incredible. It's the mother of all cannabinoids. Everything comes from that one, but there's so much that we don't know. So I really appreciate your dedication to education. And where do you think we'll see you as cannabis legalization and perhaps on-site consumption happens in the provinces and America continues to legalize? Where do you see the industry going in both countries, and where do you think you'll fit into that in the next few years?
Yeah, so as much research as we can get done in both countries and worldwide. So it was an Israeli doctor who was the one who discovered the endocannabinoid system. And Israel is huge when it comes to this kind of stuff.
They're so far ahead of everyone.
Oh, they're incredible there. Well, Israel is far advanced than everybody else in the world. Have you seen their army? Did you know that Wonder Woman, the woman who plays Wonder Woman in the movies, is an Israeli soldier?
Yeah, yes.
I can't remember her name, but like the people that come out of there are incredible. I'm sidetracked, but
no, it's really fascinating. It's so different. Yes. Did you see that they dropped weed in Tel Aviv out of airplanes? They had like an airdrop.
Yes. Please keep doing that. Everybody do that everywhere. Spread the word, spread the weed. So I think that if they keep doing their research and we as Canadians and Americans keep doing theirs as well, then we're going to discover the different cannabinoids, and we're going to discover the different methods of therapy and healing. And I definitely see that happening. It's only been 2 years, not even 2 years. Can you imagine where we're going to be in the next 5 years about what's happened in the last 2? You guys need to get legal, though. We need you to vote somebody in that can do that for you. So any Americans that are, I don't know who's your president. I think it's that Biden man that wants to be the president, and he's the one who is the most for cannabis legalization. Is that right, Aubrey?
He's the most for it. He's not as gung-ho as Feel the Burn Bernie Sanders.
I know.
It's going to be interesting too with COVID and the loss of taxes for the states. They're saying that it's possible, in order to make up the taxes lost as a result of everything that's happened, that the states, particularly where it's clear medically, have the infrastructure in place. So they might be able to like more quickly pull it together and sort something out. So it should be interesting. It's a fascinating time. And like the hemp farm bill, I mentioned that my partner is a grower, and there are different organizations, even within the American government, was the DEA or somebody came out to codify the rules and then put it publicly, even though it should have been public already. So we'll see. And it's a certain mentality. I find it rewarding because cannabis brings, as a cannabis professional, so many different people who have an interest in this. It really is like a kinder microcosm, it feels like, of America sometimes. It's not always nice, but you find nice people for sure. What advice would you give people who want to get involved in cannabis, Reverend Kelly? What does it take?
Oh, you know what? It's so hard for me to say this because I'm a heart person. So I lead with my heart, and that doesn't bring in a lot of money. So I would rather just give everything away and not charge for it. So I think that my lesson, and the lesson that I would say to other people, is that you're going to do something, find a head person to match your heart person. So a lot of and I find with a lot of cannabis, a lot of people that are working in cannabis are heart people. And so I've been searching for head people to come and help me with my business, but it's very hard to find. I think that that's the best thing that I can say, is that find somebody that isn't leading with their heart, because in cannabis they are. But the problem with that is that because I call cannabis she because we smoke the female part of the plant. I think that cannabis does not want to be sold and bought. I think that the people that are doing it for money are the wrong people. I think that those people, I've been to those trade shows and I've been to those conferences, and the majority of the men that are coming in are American men that say, I'm not going to smoke it, I'm just going to drink my beer at night. And then that's really not what we should be doing with cannabis, gentlemen. It really isn't. There are other industries for you. So I find that a lot of the times when they're leading with looking for money, that's the wrong part, because cannabis should not be bought and sold. That said, find somebody to help you that can sort of equal your heart and your love.
That's great advice. And what keeps you going?
The love, the kindness and the love, the people that come through the door, they're so loving and they are so rewarded when it comes to cannabis. And we just always do as much as we can to be kind and remember to be kind. And so that keeps me going. The people that just are affected in the most positive way. I will never retire. I will never stop working and building and doing what I can because I have a 12-year-old. I'm a single mom. And there's nobody else that's going to make this world a better place for him than me. So every single day, I work harder to make this world better for my baby and for all the other children that I love and for the people's children that I love. We might not have ended up with the best planet or the best lives right now, but we can work really, really, really hard for these babies that are growing up today to have a better world. And so that's why I do what I do.
That's incredible. We need more of you. Let's clone you. Clone you when you can come here.
They would just offer me some help around here. I could use some help.
I'm sure. Now, what's the best way to keep in touch? I will list in on the Bluntness all the different ways to get in touch with you. But did you want to talk a little bit about your online communities if people want to?
Green Lounge. You just can find me on Kelly's Green Lounge anywhere. We're on all of the social media platform places. We're heavily on Facebook. Most of all, that's sort of where we started building it. And there's a lot of people that are in the cannabis community, specifically in Canada, that come there to make their announcements or to talk about their news or to meet the people. So yeah, it's a wonderful, beautiful community. We'd love to have you involved with it, Aubrey, if you can come on Facebook. But having you as part of our Instagram is really wonderful too.
And thank you. Yeah,
and I love what you guys are doing too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure when I'm like, Kelly's there. And thank you for always being so kind. I can't wait to see what the next 6 months and year happens, because I think that empathy was always my thing about walking in other people's shoes. And I am personally a little bit, it is hard for me because I do have empath tendencies as well, to see that is, and to a degree, not feel as if it's accepted as a valid way to navigate the world. And I refuse to believe that. I believe that kindness and understanding and being open to other people is what will set all of us free ultimately. So I very much appreciate you being such an advocate of empathy and kindness. And I can't wait to see where you go next.
Oh, well, you know what? When all this ends and all the zombies are killed, then maybe you'll come up here. And I'm definitely planning a trip down there to the Emerald Triangle. So when I come down, I'll come and see you, Aubrey. I would love that so much.
Anytime. And hang on after the broadcast and we'll catch up and exchange information. But anything else you want to tell our viewers as an intro? I'm sure we'll have you again.
Oh, no, I would love to come back. And I just want everybody to remember to be kind and to love your cannabis, because your cannabis will love you back.
Awesome. Thank you, Reverend Kelly. It's been a pleasure.